Let's be honest, figuring out how to incorporate AI in your business practices can often feel a little bit overwhelming. Plenty of companies are jumping in, but most aren't actually seeing the payoff that they expected. In fact, according to Gartner, 85% of all AI projects fail to deliver on their intended promises to business. Now, let that sink in for just a moment. Despite all of the hype and investment, the vast majority of AI initiatives aren't actually delivering real business value. So, what about the ones that do work? What's so different about that small group of businesses that are actually getting any value out of AI? Well, that's what this video is all about. We're breaking down what a strong AI business integration strategy actually looks like, and also how to approach AI in a more sustainable as well as holistic way. I'll show you a practical AI adoption framework that's helped companies across different industries build smarter systems, improve workflows, and also get a real return on investment. So by the end of this video, you'll have a clear AI implementation roadmap that you can tailor to your business type, size, as well as industry. Because, contrary to what many tech vendors want you to believe, there is no one size fits all approach to AI integration. Now, with all of that being said, let's jump in and begin the video. We'll start with one of the biggest mistakes that businesses make when trying to adopt AI. They start with the tech instead of actually starting with the actual business need. That's why the first step in any solid AI business integration strategy is to get a clear idea on the problems that you're trying to solve. Not abstract ideas, but real specific issues in your business. Most of the time, these problems fall into one of three buckets: efficiency problems, whose processes are slow, expensive, or commonly prone to errors. We have experience problems, like things that frustrate customers or employees and also hurt your overall satisfaction rate. And then we have growth problems, which are the blockers that are keeping you from scaling or even entering new markets. So once you've identified the problem, you're already miles ahead of companies that jump in without a clear purpose or direction. Step two is looking at how ready your organization actually is to take on an AI project. And that starts with your data. According to Gartner, through 2026, 60% of AI projects will get scraped because the data just isn't there to support them. So before you move forward, take note of what data you have, where is it stored, how clean it is, and also what's missing. Next is then your team. Now, you don't need every employee to be a machine learning expert, but your people should have a working understanding of what AI can as well as can't do, and also how to best utilize it within their own roles. Finally, there is company culture. So, organizations that embrace experimentation, data backed decisions, and also new technologies, they tend to go further with AI. So, it's worth questioning if your teams are actually open to change or if they're likely to push back on new processes. Step three is for figuring out where to start. And for that, a simple prioritization method really helps. Think of it like a chart. One side is how much impact the project could have, the other is how hard it would be to pull it off. The best place to begin? Well, projects that have a big potential payoff but aren't too complex to implement. Step four is where you'll want to start setting some realistic timelines. So, a lot of businesses give up on AI too early simply because they expected results too fast. And most solid AI initiatives take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to show meaningful outcomes. That's a long time if you're moving fast or if you're under pressure. But building that timeline into your plan from the start helps to avoid disappointment and also keeps your project on track. Now let's talk about a decision that can make or break your AI rollout, which is the build versus buy choice. Now, there's a spectrum of options here, and each one has trade offs. On the fastest end, you've got the off the shelf AI SaaS tools, which are quick to launch, but it's also quite limited in terms of customization. Then you've got the more customizable platforms that provide you with a ton of flexibility while also keeping things relatively simple. And then in the middle, you've got API integrations that let you connect AI tools with your current systems, and that's a solid option for many mid sized companies. And then finally, there is the custom AI development. Now, this gives you complete control, but it also takes the longest, and it's usually requiring a serious investment in terms of both time as well as talent. Now, which one's right for you depends on your specific need, as well as your internal capabilities and how fast you're trying to move. To help you figure that out, you can ask yourself a few key questions, such as: is this AI capability something that sets your business apart, or is it more of a support tool? Also, how fast do you need it to be up and running? Do you have the technical team to build it out and also maintain it in house? And also, are you working with a unique data that requires a custom approach? Something else to ask is, well, what's your budget? And not just now, but also over the next few years. And then finally, how well does this thing need to plug into your existing systems? Now, for a lot of businesses, the best option isn't one or the other, but actually a mix. Maybe you start with a SaaS tool while you also build out your internal skills. Or maybe you use a platform and only customize the parts that actually matter. The key here is making sure that your technical choices actually line up with your business strategy, your resources, and also where you're headed next. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's walk through 4 different AI integration pathways. Each one represents a different way to bring AI into your business, depending on what you need, how technical your team is, and also what kind of results that you're actually aiming for. Pathway 1 is all about the quick wins without rocking the boat. This is the most accessible approach, and it focuses on using standalone AI SaaS tools that don't need to be deeply integrated with your systems. Think of it as a low risk way to test the waters. Now, most companies start here to see some early value without burning through too much time or budget. And it's basically a proof of concept. So, something to show your team or stakeholders that AI can work for you. Now, some common examples are something like AI powered customer service chatbots. We have AI content generators. We have some basic predictive dashboards, email automation with smart personalization. The upside here is that you can get started fast, like usually in just a few weeks, and you don't need a team of engineers to pull it off. The downside, though, is that these tools often operate in their own bubble. So you risk creating new data silos that don't actually connect with the rest of your business. Pathway 2 involves moderate integration with your current systems. Now, this is where things start to connect both literally as well as figuratively. Instead of using standalone tools, you plug AI into the systems that you've already used through APIs or pre built connectors. Now, this is a great middle ground for businesses that want to improve what they already have without tearing anything down. You might see this with things like CRMs that use AI to score leads, ERPs that forecast inventory with AI, marketing platforms that do smart segmentation, HR tools that match candidates using intelligent algorithms. Now, it usually takes between 3 to 6 months to implement, and it does require some technical skill, either from your internal team or a trusted partner. So, if you're not under intense pressure to deliver results tomorrow, well, this is a smart step forward in your AI implementation roadmap. Pathway 3 is deep integration through custom development. Now we're getting really into the more custom territory here, but it also provides bigger potential payoffs. Now, this pathway is for building AI solutions that are tightly woven into your core operations. It takes more time and also technical expertise, but the results can be highly tailored and also hard for your competitors to copy. You might build things like custom recommendation engines built around your catalog. You might build other things like industry specific predictive maintenance tools, proprietary trading algorithms, computer vision models for real time quality control. And these types of projects usually take around 6 to 12 months to get right. It's a heavier lift, but for a lot of companies looking for long term AI return on investment, this level of customization can be a total game changer. Pathway 4 is a full on AI transformation. So, yeah, it's a big one. Here, AI isn't just a add on, but a major part of how your business operates. Companies on this path rework their business models entirely around what AI can enable, meaning it's a long term play, but the upside is massive. Some examples here are things like manufacturers shifting to offer predictive maintenance as a service, retailers becoming personalized experience platforms, financial firms turning into AI driven advisory providers, and healthcare organizations focusing on preventative data driven care. Now, this approach is a multi year journey that really demands full executive buy in. It also requires other things like cultural readiness and an organization wide change. But when it's done right, it can lead to dramatic improvements in efficiency, customer experience, and also business growth. So, how do you know which pathway is right for your business? Well, let's break it down into a few key areas here to help you decide. Start off with your main goal. If you're aiming for quick improvements without much disruption, well, in that case, pathway 1 makes a lot of sense. But if you want to boost existing workflows without replacing anything major, pathway 2 is probably a good fit. And if you need highly customized or specific solutions that solve complex business problems, pathway 3 is worth considering. And then finally, if you're straight out rethinking your entire business model around AI, well, in that case, pathway 4 is your best destination. Next, you'll want to take a realistic look at your technical capabilities. If your resources are limited, in that case, pathways 1 and 2 are the safest bets. And a moderately skilled team with outside support can take on pathway 3. But if you do happen to have a strong in house data science or engineering team, well, all four options are on the table. Next, you'll want to actually put in some thought into your timeline. For example, do you need the results in the next month or two? Then realistically, pathway 1 is your only option. If you've got 3 to 6 months, then pathway 2 is feasible. But if you're planning for 6 to 12 months, well, in that case, pathway 3 is in the range. Now, if you're looking more toward a multi year transformation, then that's when you would consider pathway 4. Alongside your goal, capabilities, and also timeline, your budget also plays a big role too. Tighter budgets mean that you'll want to lower costs and predictability of pathway 1. A mid sized budget opens up integration projects like pathway 2. Larger budgets allow for a full custom development in Pathway 3, and enterprise level funding is required for the scope of Pathway 4. Finally, you'll also need to consider how much risk your organization is willing to take. If your team is cautious, start with something proven like Pathway 1. If you've got a little bit more flexibility, Pathway 2 lets you experiment while also staying grounded. While higher risk tolerance opens the door for more ambitious projects like Pathway 3, and Pathway 4 is for businesses ready to fully bet on this upcoming transformation. Let's make all of this a little bit more real with the case study. So, this one here involves a mid sized manufacturing company that actually got the AI integration right. They had about 500 employees and were dealing with three major issues. The first being unexpected maintenance problems that were leading to expensive downtime. The second are clunky quality control processes that relied too much on manual inspection. And finally, they had some major supply chain hiccups coming from some very limited forecasting ability. Now, here's the key. They didn't start with picking a tool or hiring a vendor. They started by looking at the impact. When they crunched the numbers, they realized that unplanned downtime alone was costing them about $180,000 every single month. And that made it clear where to focus on first. So they brought together a group of people from different parts of the company: operations, maintenance, finance, and then they also held a focused workshop to define the problem clearly. But this wasn't only a brainstorming session. They mapped out how their maintenance processes worked, calculated the costs tied to different types of failures, and then they came up with specific success metrics that they could track. After that, they looked at a few different ways to solve the problem. And they didn't jump straight into AI. They considered expanding preventative maintenance, but that would have driven the labor costs up too much. Maybe buying new equipment, but then they didn't have the capital for that. Installing basic monitoring tools, but those wouldn't actually predict issues before they would have happened. Eventually, they landed on AI powered predictive maintenance as the most realistic and also impactful option. But they didn't simply plug in a solution and then call it a day. First, they took a serious look at their data to see if it was even usable. And what they found is actually super common. For instance, they had sensors collecting data, but it wasn't being stored in a consistent way. Maintenance logs existed, but the formatting varied a lot. Production data was solid, but it was linked to the maintenance systems. They did have historical failure records, especially for the most important machines. In the end, they spent about 3 months getting their data in shape before they even started building anything with AI. That prep work is often skipped, but in this case, it set them up for success. Once they had their data in order, The next step was figuring out if their team had the right skills to actually pull this off. So they did a capability gap analysis, basically comparing what their team could do today versus what would be needed to make the project work. That honest look at their skill set showed a few key things. They didn't have in house data engineering or machine learning expertise, so they made the call to outsource those parts. But when it came to integration, connecting new tools to their existing systems, they were confident that their internal teams could actually handle this. Now, doing this kind of assessment upfront helped them avoid one of the most common mistakes, assuming that they could stretch existing roles to cover specialized work. Instead, they made sure that they had the right support in place before moving forward. From there, they used that insight to make smart decisions about what to build and also what to buy. Instead of going all in on one approach, they took it component by component. They partnered with an AI vendor to handle the predictive modeling, since that was the most technical piece. Meanwhile, they built the data pipeline themselves with help from a consultant. For the user interface, they customized the vendor's existing platform. And for system integration, they created custom connections to tie everything into their internal tools. Now, this flexible approach let them stay in control of the project without taking on more that they could handle. And it also gave them a solution that was built around their needs, not what just simply came in the box. Next, they created a phased implementation plan with clear milestones. So, for phase one, that was the data infrastructure development, which was about 2 months. Phase two was pilot implementation on critical equipment. This took about 3 months. Phase three, evaluation and optimization for a month. Phase four was expansion to secondary equipment for about 4 months. Phase five was integration with maintenance planning systems. That was about 2 months. So overall, they spent about 6 weeks developing their strategy, taking the time to think through and also get it right. Now, that upfront effort saved them months of potential rework down the line, and it also gave the whole project a much better shot at actually succeeding. Now, following the creation of their phase implementation plan, they assessed their organizational readiness, and then they discovered that their machinery had already sensors collecting data, but it wasn't actually properly being stored or even analyzed. They had a small IT team, but no data science expertise, and their operational managers were receptive to data driven approaches. Based on this assessment, they decided to move forward by using a combined approach of pathways, which included Pathway 1 for quick wins in their quality control process, Pathway 2 for their highest priority maintenance issues, and also a roadmap for Pathway 3 as their capabilities matured. For their maintenance issues, they selected a predictive maintenance platform that could integrate with their existing sensor data. So instead of a full sized implementation, they started with a pilot on their most critical equipment line. Naturally, they did hit a few bumps along their way. Some of their sensor data wasn't actually reliable, so they had to recalibrate and clean things up. Integrating with their older ERP system wasn't exactly plug and play either. They needed to build custom connectors to make everything work together. And once the system was up and running, they realized that their team needed training to fully understand and utilize the AI's recommendations. But even after just 6 months, the results spoke for themselves. Their unplanned downtime dropped by 47%, which saves them $85,000 a month. On top of that, switching to a more efficient condition based maintenance system cut their overall maintenance costs by 23%. Altogether, the project delivered a 3.2x return on their initial investment, which in and of itself is a clear sign that their thoughtful approach to AI integration had paid off. So they went ahead and rode that momentum, moving to quality control. Using computer vision, they were able to cut inspection costs by 35% and also catch more defects at the same time. A win win for both efficiency as well as product quality. All that in mind, let's cover a few big takeaways from their journey. First, they didn't start with the tech. They started by figuring out where AI could make a real difference for the business. It was then that they made sure that their approach matched with what their team as well as systems were actually ready for. Instead of trying to do everything at once, they kept things focused with a pilot project and only scaled once it worked. They also understood that success wasn't just about plugging in the right tools, but meant investing in training and change management so people actually knew how to use them. And then finally, they measured success in business terms, not solely technical terms. All right, so we've seen what a successful AI rollout can look like. But how do you actually start putting your own strategy into motion? Let's start with team structure, because who's involved can make or break your implementation. The most successful projects usually have a few key roles in place. Now, some of these roles include things like maybe an executive sponsor who removes organizational barriers, a business domain expert who understands the problems that are being solved, a technical implementation specialist who configures the solutions. And then we also have change champions who drive adoption for the end user. For smaller organizations, these might be part time roles or maybe something like combined responsibilities. Next up is change management. Now, this is something that often ends up being the deciding factor in whether an AI project succeeds or if it falls flat. A lot of companies focus heavily on the tech, but forget that people are the ones who have to use it day to day. Successful change management starts with clearly communicating why the AI is being introduced. So, people need to understand the purpose behind it and also how it's going to make their work better or easier. It also helps when end users are involved early on, giving input during the design and testing makes the adoption feel a lot more natural. Training is also another key piece. Different teams will have different needs, so one size fits all sessions don't usually cut it. Tailoring training to each user group helps build confidence and also competence from the start. And then finally, highlighting early wins, the moments where things clearly improve, can really help build momentum and also get people excited to keep things moving forward. While people are the key to successful change management, data is what makes AI systems actually work. And here's the thing, data prep is almost always the most underestimated part of the whole process. It's not flashy, but it takes up more time and resources than most teams expect, and it's absolutely essential. So, getting this right can make or break your project. A solid data preparation process usually starts with figuring out where your data lives and also how to access it. From there, it's all about cleaning things up, standardizing formats, and also making sure that everything is accurate and also usable. Now, that often means pulling data from different systems and making sure that it all connects in a way that the AI can actually use it. You also have to think about privacy and security. Whether it's customer information or internal data, compliance really needs to be built from the start. And as your systems evolve, you need to have solid data governance practices to keep everything clean, consistent, and also reliable over time. Now, once your data is in a good shape, the next big step is making sure that your AI system actually does what it's supposed to do. And that is where the testing and validation comes in. So, this part is all about building trust. If people don't trust that the systems work, well, they won't use it. And without that, even the best AI tools won't deliver any value. Effective testing happens on a few levels. First, there is technical testing to make sure that everything functions the way that it was designed to. Then there's business validation, which checks whether the system is actually solving the problem that it was built for. And then finally, there's user acceptance testing, basically confirming that the people who are supposed to use the system are actually comfortable with it and they'll actually use the system. Even after the system is live, performance monitoring is key. Business needs shift, data changes, and what worked 6 months ago might need fine tuning today. Keeping an eye on how the AI is performing over time makes sure that it stays relevant and also continues delivering value. Now, before we wrap up, let's go over a few common missteps that can derail an AI project and also how to avoid them, of course. Now, one of the biggest issues is going in with unrealistic expectations. A lot of teams expect fast results and they get quite frustrated when things take longer than planned. It really helps to start small, focus on clear use case, and also define what success actually looks like in business terms. Another one is ignoring change management. Even if the tech works perfectly, the project won't succeed if people aren't ready to use it. Make space for training. Keep the communication open and also support your team through the transition. Choosing the wrong implementation partner can also slow things down. It's not just about finding someone with AI experience. You want a partner who actually understands the problems that your business is trying to solve. Then there's the data side of things. It's easy to underestimate how important this part is. If your data is messy or incomplete, the system is not going to perform well. You need to sort that out early with a solid plan for quality as well as governance. And then finally, don't get too caught up in technical metrics. High model accuracy might sound great, but if it's not actually improving your business outcomes, it doesn't mean much. Always keep the focus on real world results. So, how do you know actually if your AI integration is working? A lot of organizations struggle with this part. They either track the wrong things or they don't measure consistently, which makes it hard to prove that the AI is actually delivering real value. First off, measuring success means looking at a few different types of metrics, not just one metric. You've got your technical metrics, which help confirm that the AI is doing what it's supposed to. Things like accuracy, precision, how fast the system responds, how reliable the data is, and also whether the system stays up and running. Basically, this tells you if the technology itself is working properly. Next are your operational metrics. These show how AI is affecting your day to day processes. Are tasks getting done faster? Are there fewer errors? Is more of the work automated now? Are you using your resources more efficiently? And these kinds of numbers really help show the real changes that are happening inside the business. And then there are your business impact metrics. Now, this is the big picture stuff. Like, are you actually seeing the revenue grow? Are costs going down? Are customers more satisfied? Are your employees more productive? So these are the metrics that tie everything back to the value that the AI is delivering for the business overall. One of the trickier parts of measuring success with AI is figuring out where the improvements are actually coming from. How do you know that it was the AI that made the difference and not something else that's happening in the business? There are a few ways to get more clarity. So, as an example, A B testing is one option, or you can also do a phased rollout, introducing AI in one part of the business first and then comparing it to the areas that haven't been changed yet. It also really helps to set baseline measurements before you launch anything. That way, you know exactly where you started. And when possible, try to isolate variables so that you can see what impact the AI is having on its own, without any of the changes muddying the picture. Once you've got your measurement and also attribution methods in place, the next step is optimization. Now, this is where the real long term value of AI starts to show up. A lot of companies treat implementation as the finish line, but the truth is, that's really the beginning. The biggest returns come from ongoing improvements, tuning the systems over time as your business evolves, and this means really setting up regular check ins to review performance, gathering feedback from the people actually using the system, and also constantly improving data quality. Retraining your models and also refining the connected business processes should be a part of the normal cycle. That said, optimization isn't always straightforward. One of the hardest calls to make is actually knowing when to keep pushing forward and when it's time to change course. Now, here's a simple way to think about it. If it's becoming clear that it's time to pivot, like if your core business issues have shifted, or if there are technical roadblocks that are holding the system back, or if users just aren't adopting your system even after support and training, in some cases, a better solution may have come along, and switching makes more sense than sticking it out. On the other hand, if the system is working well on a technical level, but the business results just aren't quite there yet, it could be worth refining. Same goes if adoption is growing, but it hasn't really hit your target, or if you're seeing some ROI, but know that there's more potential to unlock. Now, in those cases, sticking with it and also making steady improvements is usually the better move. Let's quickly recap what we covered. So, we started with the strategic foundation, like identifying the business needs, assessing readiness, prioritizing opportunities, and also setting timelines and making build versus buy decisions. Then we walked through the four AI integration pathways from quick wins to full AI transformation. Next, we covered practical steps like team structure, change management, data prep, testing, and also how to avoid common mistakes and how to measure success while still improving. And then finally, we covered how the difference between projects that stall out and also the ones that drive impact isn't victim to luck or having the biggest budget, but it comes down to a savvy, well thought out approach with complete and efficient problem solving. If you're looking for some real hands on help building out your AI strategy, there are so many consultants on Fiverr who can actually guide you through this entire process without the huge price tag that usually comes with enterprise firms. If you've got something out of this video, please do give it a like, share it with someone who's working on their own AI plans, and leave us a comment to let us know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next video, so don't forget to subscribe for more.